Putin Breaking News War critic who asked to be imprisoned instead of being fined in Russia. On Friday, a Russian court found a woman from a Siberian city guilty of using social media to criticize the Ukrainian conflict and sentenced her to a hefty fine, despite the fact that both she and the prosecution had asked for a prison term. More than 14 months after President Vladimir Putin sent troops into Ukraine, 65-year-old lawyer Marina Novikova was found guilty of spreading false information about the Russian army. Novikova condemned the invasion and blasted the Russian government in Telegram posts. A fine of 1 million rubles, more than $12,400, was imposed by the court in Seversk, Novikova's hometown, according to her husband, Alexander Gavrik, as quoted by the Russian human rights and legal aid group OVD Info. The prosecutor's office had asked for a 3-year prison term. The law allowed a fine of at least 700,000 rubles, $8,700, but Novikova pleaded with the court to send her to prison instead. She claimed she lacked the financial means to settle the hefty penalty. Russian media reported that Novikova said in court, "I am prepared to pay the price for the right to remain a human, because I understand that there will be no acquittal." Seversk is located in the Tomsk province of Siberia, where the average annual salary is 56,000 rubles, or slightly less than $700. According to OVD Info, an organization that keeps tabs on protests and arrests, the case against Novikova was one of the first filed under the new law that made it illegal to spread false information about the Russian military. Since Russia's invasion of Ukraine began, however, the number of these prosecutions has skyrocketed. The scale of the crackdown is unprecedented since the Soviet era. Independent reporting on the conflict and criticism of the war have been effectively criminalized as authorities have gone after not only well-known opposition figures, who have received draconian prison terms, but also people who are not generally thought to be anti-government. A former police officer who had been criticizing the war in Ukraine to friends over the phone was found guilty in a Moscow courtroom on Monday of publicly spreading false information about the country's military. The court imposed a 7-year prison term on Semil Vidal. Because his phone was wiretapped in connection with another criminal case and a third person was listening in, the authorities argued that his phone conversations were in fact public. A Russian court sentenced a single father to 2 years in prison last month for anti-war posts he made on social media. His daughter, then aged 13, was placed in an orphanage after drawing an anti-war cartoon at school. According to independent Russian news outlet Mediazona, the Russian Supreme Court recently reported that in 2022, courts ordered citizens to pay fines for discrediting the military 4,439 times, equivalent to about $1.8 million. In a Moscow courtroom on June 21, 2022, Alexei Goranov displays an anti-war sign. The law that criminalizes the dissemination of false information about Russian troops was used for the first time against him. They have handed out fines to some of the convicted.